Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. My Cousin Rachel. My Cousin Rachel is a novel by British author Daphne du Maurier, published in 1951. Like the earlier Rebecca, it is a mystery romance, set primarily on a large estate in Cornwall. The story has its origins in a portrait of Rachel Carew at Antony House in Cornwall, which du Maurier saw and took as inspiration. Plot summary. Ambrose Ashley is the owner of a large country estate on the Cornish coast and has been guardian to his orphaned cousin Philip since he was 7 years old. On Sundays, Philip's godfather, Nick Kendall, and his daughter Louise come to lunch with them, as do the Reverend Pascoe and his family. Life is good apart from a few health problems that require Ambrose to spend the winter in warmer climates. As the damp weather approaches, he sets off for his third winter abroad and chooses Italy. By the time he has reached his 20s, Philip misses Ambrose on his sojourns in Italy, but regularly receives letters from him. Ambrose writes that he has met a cousin of theirs called Rachel in Florence. In the spring, Ambrose says that he and Rachel are married and have no immediate plans to return to Cornwall. Gradually, the tone of Ambrose's correspondence changes. He complains of the sun, the stuffy atmosphere of the Villa San Galletti, and terrible headaches. In a letter that reaches Philip in July, Ambrose says that a friend of Rachel's called Rainaldi has recommended that Ambrose see a different doctor. Ambrose says he can trust no one and claims that Rachel watches him constantly. Philip discusses the contents of the letter with his godfather Nick, who is his guardian until his coming of age at 25. Nick suggests that Ambrose may be suffering from a brain tumor. Philip travels to Italy and reaches the Villa San Galletti, where he learns that Ambrose is dead and that Rachel has left the villa. When Philip returns to Cornwall, Nick tells Philip that he has received a communication from Rainaldi containing 2 pieces of information. The death certificate confirms that Ambrose's cause of death was a brain tumor, and, as Ambrose had never changed his will in Rachel's favor, Philip is still heir to the estate. 2 weeks later, Nick receives word from Rachel, saying that she has arrived by boat at Plymouth. Philip invites her to stay with him, and a harmony develops between them. One day, a tenant from East Lodge gives Philip a letter from Ambrose, written 3 months before his death. In it, Ambrose tells Philip about his illness, and talks of Rachel's recklessness with money and her habit of turning to Rainaldi rather than himself. Finally, he wonders if they're trying to poison him, and he asks Philip to come to see him. Rachel later shows Philip an unsigned will that Ambrose wrote in which he leaves his property to Rachel. Philip begins to trust Rachel again. On the day before Philip's 25th birthday, he prepares to transfer Ambrose's estate to Rachel. He also gives her the family jewels, and they make love. The next day, Philip announces that he and Rachel are getting married, but she denies this in front of friends. Not long afterward, Philip falls ill for many weeks, during which Rachel nurses him. When he is well enough to go outside, he finds that the terraced gardens are complete and that work has begun on a sunken garden. The foreman tells Philip that the bridge over the garden is a framework and will not bear any weight. Philip suspects that Rachel tried to poison him and, with Louise's help, searches her room. They find nothing to incriminate Rachel, and wonder if they are misjudging her. Meanwhile, Rachel has walked to the terraced garden and stepped onto the bridge over the sunken garden. Philip finds her broken body lying amongst the timber and stone. He takes her in his arms, and she looks at him, calling him Ambrose before she dies. The book's title reflects Philip's consistent references to Rachel as "my cousin Rachel" up to the moment he realizes that he is in love with her. Adaptations. The first film adaptation, Henry Costa's My Cousin Rachel, starring Richard Burton and Olivia de Havilland, was released in 1952. Du Maurier and original director George Cukor reviewed a screenplay draft and found it unfaithful to the novel, with Du Maurier declaring it quite desperate. Nevertheless, critics Bosley Crowther and Leonard Maltin felt it was a worthy adaptation. A BBC four-part television adaptation, starring Christopher Guard and Geraldine Chaplin, was broadcast in 1983. Professor Nina Auerbach judged it as superficially more faithful, including in a more complex treatment of Rachel. A radio adaptation of My Cousin Rachel by BBC Radio 4, first aired in April 2011, starring Damian Lewis and Leah Williams. It aired again May 2013 on Radio 4's sister channel Radio 4 Extra. On 17 April 2012, a dramatic adaptation by Joseph O'Connor, of Daphne du Maurier's My Cousin Rachel, premiered at the Gate Theatre, Dublin, starring Hannah Yelland as Rachel. The first film adaptation since 1952, Roger Mitchell's My Cousin Rachel, starring Rachel Weisz, Sam Claflin and Ian Glenn, was released in 2017. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.